ready. And I don't have to hold mine down because people will hear me. Okay. I don't have to introduce myself. Yay. Being as there is a quorum, the chair opens the June 12th, 2023 meeting of the Community Housing Committee. This meeting is being held in a hybrid model, both in person in the hearing room of Yarmouth Town Hall, 1146 Route 28, and remotely via the virtual computer platform Zoom.
I'm sorry, I can't hear anything.
I'm sorry, did you say something? Oh.
Lee, can you hear us?
I can hear, but I can't do my video, but yes, I can hear. I
Oh,
can hear
she's
now.
way over there. Okay.
Okay, she can hear us.
Okay,
Continue
good
on.
enough. Committee members may participate in person or through remote participation pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, signed into law on June 16th, 2021, and extended through March 31st, 2025. The information to access this meeting via Zoom was published on the agenda with the town clerk and on the town's website with a minimum 48-hour notice to the public. The public is welcome to attend in person or remotely. This meeting is being recorded. And by roll call vote,
Marcia Bissell.
Marcia,
Myra Sahenich.
Myra, Lorraine,
And Lee.
and Lee. Lee,
We present via Zoom.
and we have a quorum. And we're going to move right to the order of business with Matakees Village and Nantucket Sound, if we may.
So, yes, Madam Chair, so you'd like to recognize the Nantucket Sound Group for them to make their presentation?
The chair recognizes the Nantucket Sound Group.
Yep.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome. Thanks for having us in.
We're delighted you're here.
Why don't we start with quick introduction, Tom?
Yeah, I'm Tom Ruin, born and raised, born Cape Cod Hospital way back when. Lived on the Cape most of my life, on and off the Cape. I had a business in Rhode Island for many, many years, but always came back weekends, so, you know, I'm a Cape Codder.
We're glad you're here.
Well,
The
thank you.
accent, too. You're authentic. Yeah, I heard it, because everybody teases me.
My name is Brian Braggington Smith, another local guy, born at the Cape Cod Hospital. Grew up down by Bayview Street Beach, where I still live, and I've been actively engaged in Yarmouth activities for my entire life, really. I graduated from DY, went to Four Seas, you know, sort of got involved in energy and water and future technology, and that's kind of one of the reasons why I'm here now.
Welcome. We're glad you're here.
And I'm Paul Cleary, and I did not grow up in the Cape. I did not go to DY, but close enough. I grew up in Greater Boston and Milton, and, you know, as I've always said, when we were kids, we would chop off our left arm and our right arm to get down to the Cape for the weekend, you know, right? So the Cape holds a special place in everybody's heart from, you know,
Yes, it is.
New England. So I guess, you know, that's our outline, is that whatever we're trying to do, we're trying to do with the town of Yarmouth.
Excellent.
Not in a, whatever, you know, whatever else 40B sometimes, people think of 40B at sometimes, that it's this confrontational thing.
It has a reputation.
It has a reputation. That is never, it's not our approach. Just as a little history and background,
Yes, please.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks.
I thank you.
What that first map represents is where this process or this project kind of started, in that when the federal government changed the tax law in 2018 to encourage opportunity zones, which all the department heads and the team back here worked so and spent so much time on, I went basically door to door in most of the Eastern Mass communities from Boston down to the Cape to find out why they had applied for the designation as an opportunity zone. And I came in one day out of the blue and sat down with these guys. And I've reported back to almost everybody I talked to, there were only 2 towns that I walked into, Yarmouth and North Attleboro, who even knew why they filed to be recognized as a opportunity zone. So we kind of locked in on, we were already trying to do some business on Cape. We'd done a project at 42 Midtech. Tom owns that. It's up in the industrial park. Tom owns that project. And we had done a project years ago in the Barnstable Industrial Park, which hosts the U.S. GSA has the DEA in this building. So it's a single asset government building that there's just that single tenant in. So we're kind of poking around of where are we going to put this new development concept that we kind of have come up with. Again, I'm talking 14, 15, and 16 here. And after meeting with the planning team, and these guys already being from Yarmouth, we kind of locked into Yarmouth, and we would drive back and forth past the abandoned laundromat. And one day Tom would call me and say, "What do you think about the laundromat?" And another day I'd be like, "Hey, Tom, what do you think about the laundromat?" And we went back and forth, and we ultimately made an offer to purchase the laundromat from the bank, because it was in some type of, foreclosure or whatever. And we made a significant offer to the bank, and they turned it down and went to auction. And probably like 3 or 4 months after we made the offer, we purchased it at auction, fall of 18, and we closed as Nantucket Sound Group on January 4th, 2019. And then we started, the process of what would be the process. And by September, October of 19, right, is the Smart Growth America and the study of what Smart Growth America and what are the opportunity zones. That took place in September, October, November. And one of the things that would come up at those meetings and all the other meetings that we've gone to before is there's this astronomical infrastructure problem of wastewater. So how are you gonna go about dealing with wastewater as you try to redevelop along, the VC3? So we went into the study of that, and the laundromat, believe it or not, was 1994. The reason the laundromat could work is that the water recirculated back into this water cleaning, water treatment facility, and it was a water reuse facility from 1994 until it closed down, so that they figured out a way to treat water and not discharge water. Granted, gray water, but they had figured out a way to treat and not discharge gray water and put it back into the cycle. So again, that's part of what we're trying to do, is have this more holistic infrastructure that works on and feeds on and works together. And then as the years have gone along, more things are becoming integrated. I looked at your agenda from the May 8th meeting, and in your new business, there's an outline of new construction, modular new construction. you'll ultimately hear as we come in other times, you'll see that the whole process of how we go about designing these buildings is a modular process. The second part on that agenda was the Yarmouth energy standards. Because of the money that's available because of the Opportunity Zone and now the Inflation Reduction Act tax equity credits, the systems of infrastructure, rather than being these silos of control by Eversource or National Grid, you now have equipment, just like your heating system in the first place. You can now put an electric heating system in these buildings and pair it with on-site generation and on-site storage. So as we've been moving through this 19, 20, 21, our definition of, what we think the future of these buildings has to have if you're going to have affordable housing. Well, what's affordable housing? Yes, there's rent. Yes, there's principal interest mortgage payments, but what do you have to pay for your oil? What do you have to pay for your gas? This past year, a lot of people's kilowatt hour rate for electricity is 45 cents a kilowatt hour. So it doesn't seem like much because your bill still is only, say, $70 or $90. But it used to be $50, and now there's $40 more that you don't have to spend on whatever. So by converting the equipment that is in these buildings from a variable cost, which the 100-year-old monopoly utilities follow, into a fixed cost of building all these electric systems in today, you might be paying a little bit more money on day one to put all that together, but over the 20, 30, 50 years building life, you have lower, more fixed operating costs of these buildings. So we, early on, right, figured out you have a hard time doing development in a lot of areas because of these monopoly utilities, because the tie-in costs, the tie-in fees to join up is too expensive. And that's a major part of what has limited economic development or reinvestment into these villages that you redefined back in 07-ish, 08-ish. You really have to figure out how do you handle these costs that nobody knows exist. There's a study going on right now for the renewable solar PV and storage. Most of those applications were filed in 2018. This is not an application that has anything to do with this project, but there's a lot of Cape and Vineyard electric projects that were filed to help each and every one of the municipalities lower their energy costs. Those have been in study since 2018. That study is leading to a $170 million upgrade of the black distribution wires all over Cape Cod. Who pays that? The ratepayers, the taxpayers, right? So there's one more cost that is going to end up on somebody's kitchen table as they're paying their monthly bills that nobody's talking about. And being held up in Boston in dark rooms where that information never comes back down here. I predict right now, kilowatt price will be $1.25 within 5 years. And there's a different way to do it. And the different way to do it is to invest into new buildings, new equipment that can self-sustain through the components of on-site generation, storage, and then when and if the wind hits the water, capturing that cheap electricity on the Cape in Barnstable County and using it in our buildings rather than what's happening right now. It's going to New York and it's going to Boston, and you will really not see, even though it'll be a tenant somewhere in the Barnstable County region, the economic benefit will sail right past Barnstable County if there are not projects that kind of look more like what you were talking about last week. New modular construction with Yarmouth Energy tied to and paired to that. And now I'm kind of going off the track a little bit, but back a few years ago, 5, 6 years ago, when there was going to be the Yarmouth Energy Center, and there was going to be the self-production of new, what do you call that, Brian? Biofuels. That's part of our answer to what we think is affordable housing, is recreating how the attached infrastructures actually support the housing and take advantage of the federal and the state tax laws that support that investment. That's kind of our overview at this stage, and I think it kind of speaks a little bit. I know it doesn't answer everything, Mary, but 5, 7, and 8 on your list of Mary's questions.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that. This is just very preliminary right now, so.
And that's the
Yep.
preliminary starting, that it's kind of based in, how do we deal with clean real estate and tie it to clean renewable energy? So,
Sorry, my daughter is traveling, so she finally texted me. So I'm sorry.
Relaxation is yours.
You okay? So do you want me to just go through what's in your packet?
Yeah.
Okay, so what's in your packet, so my name is Mary Wagon, I'm staff. You'll probably hear a lot from me and during this, the review of this project, but I don't have a vote on any of this stuff. But, so I assembled a packet for the committee, and I just want to go through it really quick. We have our agenda. The second thing is we have a notice of a site visit for tomorrow at the site at 897 Route 28, and it's officially starts at 11 a.m. Another thing that's in your packet is this chart, okay? So what I did was at the top of the chart, I put basically a summary of your charge and your mission, okay? And then a place to put, pros and cons as we go through this. Make notes for yourself. I don't think we'll probably get through it all today. So it's kind of just a worksheet to help us get to a comment letter on this. There's what we call the tax map, where the site is located, and it's highlighted. It's map 41, lot 46. And then you have this mass housing letter, which we received. And I'll just read the first paragraph. Mass Housing is currently reviewing an application for site approval submitted by NSG Mattachusett. Am I saying that right, Brian? Mattachusett Village LLC. The proposed development will consist of 23 units of rental housing on approximately 1.09 acres of land located at 897 Route 28. The site approval process is offered to project sponsors who intend to apply for a comprehensive plan under Chapter 40B. Okay? And just to let you know that Mass Housing is looking to the town for comments by June 30th through the Board of Selectmen. The Board of Selectmen meet June 27th, so we have to have their comments, our comments into them by June 22nd that morning, because that's the deadline for that wonderful administrative staff to pull together the packet so that the Board of Selectmen have access to it over the weekend, so they're prepared for the meeting. So that's Mass Housing's letter, and then attached to it is excerpts, like pieces of Nantucket Sound Group's formal application to Mass Housing. So there's their introductory piece that looks like this. There's there's an additional narrative that I stapled in there. There's an existing condition plan, a proposed plan, graphic representation of the project, which is kind of your elevation and your floor plans. I know, and I understand these are all draft, but it's what we have in the packet. A zoning tabulation, there's something about the housing inventory, max income and maximum rents. Evidence of site control, which is always, right, Myra? That's always something you look for. Myra has a planning background. An NEF letter of interest, a market rate rent comparables, and a draft marketing study. So that's, and I sent you the link to the full packet, but it's 272 pages, so I didn't print it all out. I was trying to save a couple of trees. So that's what's in your packet. I just wanted to do that. I didn't know, do you guys want to go through, like, you know, the proposed, you know, project? Do you want to go through that proposed plan with the committee? And there's extra copies, yes, okay.
So you'll see here, this is. Oh, great. So, this is
Why don't you
a
turn it just a little bit
little
for Masha? Yeah, okay.
This is a
You got it.
kind
Yep.
of a new iteration of you know, what we're trying to keep working on the exterior of the building so that it looks more Cape Cod. And, you know, this is our next crack at it. We're probably still not there, but we'll keep working on that. But in this box is 62 by 104. And you see down here, 8-bay building. And over here, Green Stack Architect. So once we put call it the Lego blocks together of that 13 by 62. So anytime we go to build a building anywhere, we go in these 13-foot increments. So we find the sidewalk of the smart growth village. We find, you know, what people are trying to encourage in this smart growth zoning that the VC3, I think, represents. You're trying to put your building as close as it can be to the sidewalk. So you start to create a little bit more of a look, and you're trying to create a little bit of the parking being out behind the building. This property kind of has two frontages well, not kind of, it has two frontages. It's on Route 28, but it also has frontage on Pine Grove. So it's almost impossible to put parking totally behind anything because you do have the two frontages, similar to like how Yarmouth Commons looks, in that it doesn't kind of, you know, just cover the sidewalk. You see the different buildings and the spacing there. But anyways, that's what the building starts to look like. It's 3 stories. It's set up and has been designed more for workforce housing. So the units are smaller. There's 23 units in that building, which 25% have to be permanently deed restricted under 40B. So there's 6 units that are permanently restricted as quote-unquote affordable units. The remainder of the building right now is market rate units. That's the visual plan. That's a side elevation. That's on the 62 side. So That's the side elevation of the building. This has nothing to do with this location. This was a project in Arlington. And this is just to demonstrate that as you start working with design review and site design, you start basically changing the materials that you're using on the exterior, but that interior structural, interior mechanical is all common element. But the exterior, you spend time, so that, and then I'll skip over that next one. And that brings us to, it's in your handout, but a starting point on our site and what the existing condition is. There's already this 3,600 square foot vacant, abandoned, no electric on. We've been working for over 2 years to get Eversource to turn the electric on.
Still get bills, but no
The bills
electricity.
come, they have no problem sending the bills.
Keep sending bills.
Getting them to turn.
Pay the bills, they keep coming and all that.
And with the building that is in the application is proposed for up here at, on the sidewalk, basically at Route 28, 62 by 104.
Do you want to take questions now or at the end?
That's kind of like the end for me.
Okay.
You know.
I'll write it down.
You get me to shut up, but it's kind of.
There's a lot to be said.
So what you can do is you can just go, if committee members are comfortable,
Yep.
they can just directly ask the project proponent.
Let's open it up to that then, that committee members ask their
What will be
questions.
on the ground floor of the building?
That building is all residential right now. The building that's there is
The
Mick-
proposed building, yeah, what's on the,
no, there'll be two buildings. When that proposed building is up, there's two buildings there.
Right.
So the existing building is the mixed-use component, and the attached building is all residential.
so the building that's near the sidewalk is all residential.
Correct. Yeah.
The existing building, you're going to do what with?
We've been in the process of designing it and not attempting, but you go back and forth with banks and lenders.
I see.
We would ultimately,
Oh, sorry.
the banks would like that building knocked down
Okay.
and have two buildings there that were all residential, right? That's what the banking community, you got to think of the banks right now are in a fear factor, free fall, that's things like Silicon Valley Bank. So when you walk in and say, we would like to do a small oyster bar restaurant, they are not big on new restaurants, and they'll come up with 1,000 reasons why you shouldn't do a restaurant. That's what we had been planning with to renovate that into,
Okay.
yeah, and then tie it to, and I understand that the VC3 would prefer mixed use in that first floor and then residential above. Again, the banks, it's difficult for them to underwrite mixed-use buildings today
I see.
because they're just, like you go into the bank and one side of the building handles commercial and mixed-use loans, and another side of a bank handles residential apartment buildings, and some other area of the bank that hasn't been open since '07 handles for-sale residential condos in those type of buildings, right? So right now, the type of unit that you can deal with the banks, which is kind of the underlying reason why we're with Mass Housing, is to get to the New England Fund and to get to the Fed Home Loan Bank funding to actually build the things. Like the pretty pictures, everybody's seen too many pretty pictures. We want to have an economic, financeable project that can be built, and right now, this two-building type of layout speaks to the lenders. They'll like do this on the existing building because they're committed to,
Okay, so I think what you mean is the lenders are pushing you towards having the proposed building all residential, but letting you have commercial in the existing building.
correct, yeah.
I didn't know that. That's,
They're opposed to the laundromat?
The laundromat,
Could be a laundromat, for example.
I mean, they want to save money, they're banks, right?
they may or may not be into laundromats. When you're trying to head down the path of economic development and economic redevelopment, you shouldn't usually start with failed businesses as how you're going to base your, how you're going to base your future on.
That was a community resource. I mean,
Yeah, but it didn't make money.
amazing that it didn't.
Yeah. Now, why? I'm sure at a point in time it made money before people could put washer dryers into their homes.
Yeah.
But as the washer dryers became more economic and people could just flood their Title V septic systems with black water, or I'm sorry, gray water, that probably diminished how much actual profits were being made there. And then as there was not a reinvestment into that water reuse equipment, the stories I've heard is your clothes would come back and it would be
Just as dirty as when it went in.
just as dirty as it went in. So it kind of like sooner or later just
Wore out.
extinguished itself,
It's such a good idea. I had to ask. I'm real curious about your comment about the site design will influence the choice of materials. Can you be more explicit on that? Are you going to do hardy concrete clapboard or something like that that can stand up to the wetness of that particular region?
I think as a group, I think the look and the feel of how Yarmouth Commons came out from the exterior and those type of materials.
Yep.
That's as good a starting point as you might want to use. At Green Stack, the architects at that firm, they originally brought in this guy Jai to be an architect, and he was the architect designing Yarmouth Commons. He's passed away, but I guess the philosophy of that look, hopefully, those materials are what will be embedded in this project when we finally bring a building plan to mark. And there'll be other meetings, site plan and design plan, where we will keep working on a material list, and as that develops, I'm sure we'll bring it back over to.
I only mentioned Hardy because I knew them long ago
Yeah,
in a project that I was on, and they're wonderful. But that's many years ago. I'm interested in the environmental parts that you were talking about. This looks like a good wetlands site. Is that true?
There's no wetlands on
I
that
don't
site.
understand it.
The
Are you
interest-
concerned
the in-
about water table or anything like that?
Probably water table, is going to be a,
Yep.
It's a issue, water table there, Brian?
Yeah, I'd say it is. That whole area suffers from a high water table.
Oh, you
Yeah.
think so?
Yeah, it does. That's why you have a lot of raised systems throughout the area. So in fact, that's why the laundry center was built. I know because I sold them the system. And the reason was that people couldn't put washers in because it would overtax their septic systems.
Yep.
So that was why he was quite successful. But as my associates have pointed out, you have to reinvest in your property. And you have to
Absolutely.
maintain your equipment. If you
Yep.
don't maintain your equipment, then you can't expect it to perform appropriately.
So, yeah.
Can I jump in here?
Please.
So you are surrounded by water. You're not quite in, a 100-year flood zone, right? But when you like look at what the wetlands are and the flood areas are in that area and zoom out, you're like kind of in the middle.
Zoom out, it gets better and better at our location. It gets worse and worse for everybody who abuts us. So we, for whatever reason.
Let me just, because
Yeah.
I'm gonna direct you in a certain way. So there's ways to make your building more resilient, like putting your mechanicals on the second floor, that kind of stuff. So have you thought about any of those things? I cheated, I did go on the EPA site. So we're talking about like materials, like there's materials that can stand up to flooding, like there's products coming online because places are getting flooded and then the water leaves. But one big thing we learned from the flooding in Miami was you put the mechanicals, you don't put them in the basement because they get flooded and then they're ruined, but you put the mechanicals up. So, just something to think about. It'll be one of my comments, probably at site plan review, but.
I think you'll find that the mechanicals are different, because when you're dealing with the old mechanicals, you're putting some type of oil burner down in the basement. You're already putting a hazard down there in the basement. So if you pull those out and go with an electrified system, most of the units are already,
Okay.
they're on each of the floors. No, they're not on the roof. They're on the floors as you make you know.
No, okay, good, all right, good.
Yeah.
They're modular.
I'd like to continue my rant for a little bit. I am very interested in universal design because I think it's the wave of the future. We might as well learn to build that way now. There's no more whining time. It really is important for people who will be in electric wheelchairs or who have other than mobility issues like vision. Have you given any thought to the universal access throughout the development?
So really, that components of what you said are all we think about, in that if you start with new infrastructure that is totally electrified by solar PV or wind, right? You've already eliminated a lot of health issues that from the gas stoves and.
True.
Okay, so do we have all of the components addressed? But incrementally, we try to improve each area. There will be elevators in that, we're going to put an elevator in that building, which allows better access for everybody. You know, nobody wants to be schlepping their groceries on a walk-up up to a third floor. So there's an elevator in that building, and there is it's law, but there's accessibility that's built into the building code and built into the designs. So I think you'll find that whether it's mandated by law or us trying to go an extra step, we're trying to factor in the next generation of design. And if you take the time and go look at the Green Stack website, you will see that design built, and you will see how we go about modularly and scalably building out something in an individual component, but then scaling it out to these larger, more compact uses that smart growth speaks to. In the type of villages, most importantly, into the type of villages that are areas of the town that you've already done significant planning on. Let's keep this type of development in this type of corridor, and let's put in the supporting components like the wastewater pipe, sewer pipe. We're putting in a new water line. That was last month's town meeting vote, right? Put that in. Then those properties are all in the new DIF district infrastructure financing, so that, as one building, not just ours, as one property is developed, some other property hopefully is developed the right way, and that increase of development starts to help pay down the new debt that's being taken on by the town. So in our philosophy, we're really spending more time than we've ever spent on what is the environment as opposed to the CRE of commercial real estate. Yeah, what is the impact of the development? What is the impact of the design? And as you'll see in my handout, it's in keeping with everybody of how people are trying to do it. If you see the new administration's priorities, priority number 1, climate and clean energy. Priority number 2, affordable and abundant housing. That's our governor's office. That's what they want. You go over to Mass Clean Energy Center, where they're putting a significant amount of money behind Mass Clean Energy Center, and they want high-performance buildings, which this is, and they want net zero grid. So, that's the goal of these buildings or any development we do, to have this net zero impact as best we can. And if we do 90% of what we think we can do, we know we're doing 1,000 times more than what most other people are considering when they put into the buildings.
Can you talk a little bit about the modular approach that you're going to have?
So our modular approach starts modular in that technology allows us to go directly to the structural, the mechanical, the electrical, and the plumbing. So most people start with the site survey and the civil engineer and kind of do all their planning there, and then they have, like I called earlier, the pretty pictures, and then they end up with something that is uneconomical and unfinanceable. We try to start, I'm from the financial institution world, I'm from the venture capital world, so I like to start with find something that speaks to the financial markets and make sure it's financially viable, okay? So all of that is in our modular structure. When we're done doing those plans, again, the building plans will go to Mark, they can be built modularly. There's a problem with modular. I mean, we have built, not we, on the Cape. The Cape has built some modular housing. We've built modular housing in the greater Boston area. The problem with modular housing down the Cape is that it's very expensive and difficult to get the housing from Pennsylvania, New Hampshire, or mostly Canada right now they're coming out of. So the designs of that build plan can be built modularly, could be built panelized, and it could just be built traditional stick. So we have not made a decision on will it come in boxes modularly or will it be assembled in these other ways of assembling it, okay? That is a work in process as we try to address what could modular be. We're supporting a small startup in our, kind of like our world of clean energy startups, and there's a new, call it a modular company that's starting in Andover, Mass. They're Google and Amazon people, so they already built out the Google and the Amazon facilities modularly. They're now transitioning into housing, and they're not doing it yet, but their plan is to mass produce a kitchen, mass produce bathrooms, and instead of delivering them in these 13 by 62 boxes or 13 by 65 boxes that we're talking about, they'll actually deliver the kitchen. And then, like panelized construction, you will assemble and start building out the kitchen at the site. That is not going to happen on that building because they're not ready to do that. So we're in this hybrid right now of, can somebody get to these component pieces? Like solar PV is all modular. You're picking that equipment off the shelf and you can assemble it basically at your site. Housing has gotten nowhere near that. The closest I think they've gotten to is you can panelize your framing and push it up, and you can buy your heating systems and whatever. Once they design them, they build them off-site, and they bring in the system and all the ductwork and put it together. So what this company Reframe is attempting to do is basically take that ductwork exercise and expand it into where the kitchen can come. And that would put it on smaller trucks and allow there to be more production. So, I think the future is changing pretty much every day that we wake up. So I don't have all the answers on that side. This, if I were to bet right now, will be probably panelized and traditionally built on site, because I just don't see the cost of bringing the product from Canada as being over the road and getting it down the Cape. But we are exploring that. I'm not exploring it, it's in design, but I just don't think they're going to be price competitive to do that.
Marcia, Myra, do you have questions?
One of my questions was just answered, and the others may be a little bit too detailed for right now, so I'll wait.
You'll wait.
I'll wait. I'll put it in comments.
Yeah, I have a lot of questions, but I think I'd like to see, looking forward to the site visit tomorrow, because I need a visual, more of a
Yeah.
visual than
Yeah.
just a piece of paper. I'm a little thrown off, I'll be honest, with the fact that the existing building, the plans show for the existing building to stay there. That kind of, I can't get past that, so I really need to go see it tomorrow. It just seems that the existing building looks very close to the proposed building.
It's not just close, it will be attached. There'll be an attached walkway with those two buildings ultimately.
Is that what the,
On
your-
that handout that I gave today, that
is
doesn't
that what
depict,
the red,
I don't think that properly depicts it, that plan.
Okay,
The
'cause I
earlier one
see that on
probably
here.
does, yeah. Yeah.
I'm trying to figure it out.
In a perfect world, if the banks were totally on board with mixed-use buildings, that first floor of this building would be the restaurant. Right? That would be the mixed use. One building, restaurant on the first floor, housing above. But then it's gonna teeter on whether it's economic or not. And, that's what we're gonna constantly be fighting against and working on, are these constraints.
So if I understand correctly, the proposal for the new building, as you're thinking about it now,
Yeah,
is that new building will house the 23 apartments?
yes.
And then this existing building will be
Half office and half,
kinda updated
yep,
or whatever?
yeah.
I trust there are no
I
washers
call,
and dryers in there?
I call that lipstick on a pig. I personally don't like that, like you. I like to bulldoze things, but the bank, if that gets bulldozed, they'd like to see two buildings like that at that property, and there's not enough land for that, and it opens up a whole other thing of whatever.
So the existing building will be renovated to be appropriate for either, professional offices or?
An oyster bar restaurant.
And oyster bar restaurant, that's the proposal.
We've designed that use.
That's the
when
oysters on the bottom of
we
your,
would,
I noticed the oysters on the,
I was wondering why there was an oyster everywhere. You're funny.
what's that? What's the oyster? Oh, right here they go.
Kidding.
On the bottom of the,
Offices and the restaurant.
yes.
yeah,
And
okay.
it's interesting that you're so
normally-
specific, an oyster bar restaurant.
Well, because again, we've done a lot, you can.
figured that out
You can
by-
spend a lot of time studying things when you've started studying that neighborhood since 2018. So there's
Yeah.
like, we have been also, COVID delays and whatever, but we've been following the need for town wastewater. Why do a laundry center? Why do a restaurant if you're gonna flip over the Title V septic and it wouldn't work? It probably, probably wouldn't work anyways with the volume of, water that just those type of uses would use. But now when you have the sewer, you can have more uses because you have an off-taker for the water. So that, and now the, the district infrastructure, the DIF, the goal, and this is the accountant finance person, I mean, the goal in a DIF, especially on these properties right on 28, you should be looking for the maximum, highest, and best use on all the properties. And I'm kind of agreeing with probably more this end of the board. Like, you don't want just housing up and down that 28. You want a mix, and you kind of want people in those walkable villages that smart growth is supposed to create. So that's why we have this banking, financial, but also the VC3 is looking for some component of mixed use, and this speaks to, mixed use.
Oyster bars are wonderful, no doubt in my mind, but the community needs other things besides more restaurants. Have you thought about other uses for it and talked with the bank and heard their yes, no, or maybe?
I would say,
Or they're
what I
shocking.
hear from them for about commercial is no, 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 no. So there's a whole booklet, and in our application of yeses that are in
Yeah.
the zoning booklet and are in specifically the VC3, and that, I don't know if people appreciate how much effort goes into convincing the financial markets to invest in something kind of new wherever it is. So, we keep our ears open, and when they kind of give us guidance, we go towards the direction that they're steering us in. And it would be interesting to have these like a lot of meetings that happen even at, say, the state level. Who don't they invite to those meetings? The people who put the money into the deals, right? So there should be more of that banking side. And we've spent a significant amount of time, Brian and I have spent a significant amount of time with the U.S. Department of Energy under this Biden bipartisan, I guess it's not Biden if it's bipartisan Infrastructure Act, and the amount of money that's out there from the federal government to assist with the types of development that the town in Barnstable County is looking for are really astronomical. Getting a radical collaboration of all the interested parties to kind of participate on, like most people just focus behind the fence of the project or the development that they're working on, right? I could care less about the fence. The fence brings us to this meeting because 897 is the property address that we're discussing. But just take us, put us on any property address, and we'd come back with a vision of what could be on that property, and whether or not the financial people want to support that vision. I said this to Karen and Kathy a long time ago. The bones are in your zoning booklet. There's variances that any developer would need, right? But the bones, there's a lot of good work that's been done over the, call it 20 years that led to the growth, the growth district from the Cape Cod Commission. The bones are there. I think anybody can read the work that's been done and understands what you're looking for. You're looking for these districts that have these mixed use, they all kind of flow and work together. The problem is there's been a deferral of infrastructure, inadequate infrastructure investment in Barnstable County for 30, 40, 50 years. So you have a hard time putting those little clusters together. I think you have an opportunity right now to utilize there's an enormous fight going on right now. There are other energy companies all over the island trying to put Eversource out of business and put National Grid out of business. They might not want to hear me say that, but I've told the bosses and owners of those companies that that's a fact. So you just have to keep adjusting to all of the components that go into the financial mix, or most of the projects are uneconomic. If you're not looking at everything, if you're not looking at the environmental, at the same time you're looking at, what's your neighbor doing, and you're not looking at what you're doing, you're just going to get, okay, here he goes again, getting himself in trouble. It aggravates me when I drive down Route 28, and on the side of Yarmouth Commons, I just see a bank of electric meters.
Yeah.
Like, that should never happen.
Yes.
Here we go again.
Wasn't on the drawing, okay? I have to say, I was like driving down Route 20, I'm like, who the heck put that there? It wasn't on the drawing.
So you want to know now what aggravates me even more? You have a sign committee, correct? The next thing I see is this beautiful white fence, which in my opinion shouldn't be there anyways, because you're trying to get flow.
Look, okay.
But then on top of it is a no trespassing sign that probably costs $2.50. I know it doesn't meet the sign bylaw, right? But it's front and center, right in what we're trying to do to renovate the Village 3, now, VC3. Now, I want to see walking, I want to see integration. That intersection at the corner of 28 and Pine Grove, 1 mile to the beach.
Right.
How do you go wrong in Yarmouth if, that you all live 1 mile from the beach? Oh. That's a trick they use all the time. Pull the fire alarm, get him out of the building.
Oh?
I guess you did get in trouble. You said you were gonna get in trouble.
You get as close as you can and you roll the dice at town meeting.
expected you guys for that.
Oh, no, you lost the IT. Oh, no. That the housing authority will, appoint him
By the
to
way,
this
I-
committee,
I did
and then we'll
mention-
have 2 vacancies on the committee. Do you know what I mean?
I did mention that to the Housing Authority in the one meeting I've been to so far, and they got the point very
Okay.
well, so that should happen. Yeah.
Good. And so anyways, there's been 4 applications, and I think they're all in here. I think everybody's in here. There's John Barr, who has not had an opportunity to meet with us, and if I didn't put the talent bank forms in here, shame on me. Oh yeah, they're in here. There's Palm, who was here remotely.
Oh, yeah.
John Barr, Joshua Trott, and there was a new person. Sylvina Martin Johnson, who couldn't be here tonight, but will come to the next one. So you're in the packet. Do you want to recognize him to introduce himself?
How do I recognize him?
Say, why don't you tell us about yourself?
Oh, in that case, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your interest in the Housing Committee?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
He's already good at
Yes,
this.
Madam Chair is an excellent title for me.
I grew up on Cape in Sandwich. My wife and I moved to Yarmouth about 8 years ago. I currently work as the Director of Energy and Section 8 Inspections for Housing Assistance Corporation. My father was a general contractor for 40 years, so I have a lot of background in building, in housing, in energy, and I just really want to see what I can do to help Yarmouth move forward. And that's my big pitch.
That's a good pitch.
There's
Pitch.
there's a lot going on, and they were talking about the bipartisan infrastructure law. There's a whole bunch of money coming out for that. That there's going to be more of these opportunities popping up, and we're going to see more and more developers pushing to get a share of that dollar value in their pocket. And I'd like to help guide the town through that.
Okay, so you work for Housing Assistance, you're the Section 8 inspector?
I'm the Director of Section 8 Inspections and Energy. So I work directly with Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities, which was DHCD. I wanted to correct you when you said that, by the
They
way.
changed their name?
Oh, yeah.
What is it now?
Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities.
Good grief.
I know.
Okay, I didn't know this.
EOHLC, it's a mouthful.
Do we have to do that?
Yes, there was a big memorandum that went out.
How did that happen?
Can you
Rec-
email that
really
to me?
recently?
June 3rd, I think. It was very
very
recent.
recent.
I'll forward it to
Okay,
you,
so
Mary.
there's no more
At least it was the
DC.
same month, right?
DCHD is an obsolete act.
Because they're no longer a department under, what was it, Housing and Urban Development. They're now their own executive office.
Wow.
But I work with E EOHLC,
EOHLC.
LC,
Livable
National Grid, Eversource, Cape Light Compact, all sorts of different state and local funding sources. So I have a really good idea of what's going on, not just in the state and in the region, but throughout the country, where these different laws and bills are pushing America as a whole. And I think Massachusetts has been on the forefront of a lot of it, and I'd like to keep it there.
So you're in favor of charging stations at every house?
I think if you want them, there should be some sort of incentive for it. I have solar panels on my house.
Yes.
The next car I buy is going to be an electric vehicle.
Can't have a parking space without a nice charger on it, as far as I'm concerned.
And you know, for a home station, it's really just an extension cord you roll up.
Oh.
But for a project like we were just talking about, absolutely, several of those spaces should be dedicated to EV parking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, let's put that on the list. Wait a minute.
A lot of people, their next car is going to be an electric car, probably, right?
They've gotten to the point where they're as reliable as a traditional gas car.
Range.
300 miles on some of them, at least 200.
Yeah,
And, you know, I drive 7 miles to work and back every day. I don't need to do 200 miles every day. And we're going to keep a car that's gasoline for when we want to take a longer trip.
I see.
That must be why you need a bike. An electric bike, of course.
Well, Cape Light Compact just had a program that was doing 75% off electric bikes for low-income households across the Cape.
What an exciting idea that is.
So up to $1,200 in incentives. And the bikes generally run about $1,500, so there's no other strings attached other than getting an energy audit for that. I mean, there's all these programs out here, and housing is just one small part of it. Well, a big part of it.
What draws you to to our committee?
I was working with Ann Schiffenhaus at Housing Assistance. She's headed up a couple of organizations to try to get more people interested in local committees and boards. And I did not realize how easy it was to go on your website and see what boards had open positions.
Yes.
So I did put in for a couple. I saw your energy board was fully staffed, unfortunately, because that would have been perfect for what I do. Zoning Board of Appeals and Historic District also really appealed to me because I live in the Historic District. And I've had some not so pleasant conversations with them about very trivial things. So I applied for several boards, but all boards that I knew I could be a big help to.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think there's several. And most people do that. On the talent bank form, they check off.
Yeah, you can check as many as you want as you do
Right,
the
yeah,
submission. So
absolutely.
We have subgroups on our committee where we do additional work. And Mary and I drive people completely nuts, and we're very successful at this. So I'm wondering, are you thinking how much time you have to give to committee meetings and/or additional work should occur?
absolutely. As the director of my departments, I'm pretty flexible in the time. I don't need to be in my office 9 to 5. I need to get my work done during the week. So I am absolutely available more than just, I know you're the second Monday of the month from 3 to 5 generally, but I'm very flexible as far as my time goes.
Okay.
I have a pretty good team underneath me, and I can leave them alone for a few hours and everything will be okay.
Well, you certainly have expertise that we can use,
I believe so, yeah.
and I don't see why we wouldn't want to have you, but I mean, you really want to be with us. You saw us today.
It seems like a fun group. I've been to some stuffy town meetings, and this one seemed like it was a good amount of fun, so
Prepare yourself.
You can carry on that tradition, huh?
I'll try.
Well, thanks so much.
Thank you very much for your time.
Appreciate it.
So what we'll do is we'll send a letter, a memo to Dorcas McGurran, who's the town's appointment chair. She's on the Board of Selectmen. And I'll give her an update. I gave her an update that we met with Palm. I'll let her know that we met with you, that everything's good,
Yep.
right? Okay, good.
Census.
And that we, we'll, John Barr is an architect, so I find that he is busy designing buildings during our meetings, so I'm not sure if, I know, he keeps saying, oh, I'm sorry, I was busy. But let's meet Sylvina at our next
At our next meeting.
meeting, and then we'll ask, then Dorcas will start reaching out to you all and interviewing you all.
Wonderful.
I know it's very bureaucratic, but it's open democracy, open government, so,
Thank you.
all right.
Thanks for sticking with us through the fire
Coming
drill.
in.
Yeah, indeed.
Well done.
I always see everybody
Embarrassing.
clear out after the first important thing. And then it's just all about it. But it feels rude to not stick around. You guys have put so much work in that.
Sweet.
Just stay to listen.
I have just 6 minutes before I have to go.
We have a set of minutes, May 8th.
Okay. May 8th.
Yeah?
Okay. Okay. So the minutes?
Yeah.
And we gave it in a packet. I think we did. Okay, the minutes of the last meeting are in your packet, and I would love to hear your comments, if any.
Looks good to me.
Okay, they look good as written.
They're acceptable to me, so
Okay, has Lee gone on her way?
Yes.
he's not here.
Okay,
So I move we accept the minutes.
very nice
Okay.
motion, yes. Second, excellent. And let's take a
I'm
roll
going to
call
abstain
vote.
because I was not here.
You were not here, so you can't vote on it. Okay, we'll absent you then from this. And Myra?
Yes.
Okay, yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Excellent.
we're done.
And
Yay,
then
minutes, they're down.
you can ask for a motion to adjourn.
I'd like a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
I like it. Is there a second?
Second.
Excellent. Myra,
Yes.
Marcia,
Yes.
Lorraine, yes?
Yes.
Drew, we did it. Oh, boy, do
Okay.
we have stuff for the next meeting. Oh.